Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a mastery empowerment course brought to you by acoustichealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back and enjoy this very sacred space. It is a beautiful session of mastery, empowering your mastery. And my guest today is offering this course to show you a little bit more about how you can use tuning forks for your personal and planetary transformation. Let's welcome Christopher Timms. Hello, Christopher. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Loren, for having me. It's great to talk with you again and be with everyone.
It is beautiful to be with everyone. I want to share that this is a mastery empowerment course. And given our current times where many are sheltering in place, they are asked to go within and connect with their higher self even more. And so we were chatting about how we can offer something where people can use this time as people retreat and take care and relax and rest, and also use time to partake on passion projects and things that they want to do to improve the world. This is a way that we can do it. So we thank everyone for being here. This is different than a mastery, than a quantum conversation, which is a conversation. So I'm going to step aside here and allow Christopher to go into this course more deeply. And then we're going to show you how you can go even further with Christopher. He is offering 3 live sessions in a course, and that's for advanced beings to really make this a part of your life and make it a part of your practice, as we have many healers who are expanding in this now moment. And so, as we start here with our course material, I do just want to set the stage and say that this is a very powerful time. We are at a crossroads. If we heard yesterday's special episode, the spiritual teachers are saying that there is a gift. And my guest today, Christopher, says there is a gift in this now moment. And how are we going to use it to the best way? Well, this is called opening doors to new earth. Can you really feel into that and see there is a beauty in what we're partaking on? There's a beauty into what we're creating. There are solutions, and this is what we came for. So, Christopher, welcome. I want to give you this space to comment and also to begin your mini course. Thank you.
Thank you, Loren. And it is a very unique time in human history, really. In the modern era, of course, we have never seen anything like this. And one can say with reasonable certainty that we really never will again. We are walking through a doorway. And when you walk through a doorway, you leave behind where you've been and you proceed on into where you're going. You can't take the old room with you when you're moving into the new room. And that's part of the dissonance that's going on within these years of human culture. And just before I get into the specific ideas of sound tuning forks and some basics on spiritual anatomy and physiology, which tie into it as I see it, um, it's important to realize that life is always here for our advantage. And as Loren was saying, I'm sure a number of teachers are pointing out that this is not an imprisonment, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to take yourself out of the rhythm of a life that keeps you very, very busy, keeps you preoccupied. And while there are worries, there are concerns, it teaches you to put them aside if there are things that you can't do anything about in the moment. And it gives us the opportunity within this kind of stillness that's around to let yourself out. And as you let yourself out, you begin to realize how you've lived your life over the last several chapters, perhaps the last several decades, what you've done, what you haven't done, and different insights begin to come to the surface. And I don't understand what that is. I'm sorry, Loren.
That is confirmation. And I know
Yes,
that
it
that's
is.
a wake up call for those, because whether that's a book or a new service or someone trying to reach you on Skype.
Well, they can try later. They can try. How's that?
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
there you go. Okay. So all I'm saying here is that turn this to your advantage. Discover what it is to be you right now. Discover what you not so much here's a good way to look at it. When I'm coaching people as to how to work in business, how to work in their lives in general, I find that it's really helpful for people to realize they don't have to know what they want to do, because if you think you know what you want to do when you're in a place where you're not liking what you're doing now in your life, then all you're going to find out is that you've taken a bucket of yesterday and thrown it on the canvas of tomorrow, because your mindset that puts you in the position of doing the things that you don't want to be doing in the life that you don't want to be living is what's coming up with the ideas to move you forward. So what's important is to purposely leave the canvas of the moment empty, and then be really clear about what you don't want to be a part of anymore. And when you're just clear about what you don't want to be part of anymore, this is what in the Christian scriptures is called repentance. The word repent means to turn around or to fall back upon. And when you turn around or turn away from the world that you don't want to be a part of, then you can discover, and that's a key word for right now, is to discover what it is to be human, what it is to exist in this time. And I may be different than a lot of the teachers that are out there, because I can't tell you what the new world is going to be like, because I don't believe anybody can. Because I think if they can, then they're taking a bucket of yesterday and throwing it on tomorrow. I think it's for us to look at the ancient scriptures, and this is where sound bridges into all this, and frequency and vibration. The ancient scriptures tell us that eye has not seen and ear has not heard the greatness and the glory that the gods have in store for man. So that means you can't imagine it. You can't put an idea to it. You can't put a set of bullet points or a mind map or a outline together as to what the new world is going to be. You can write books as to what you would like it to be, but don't sentence the world to what you think you understand. Don't sentence yourself to what you think you understand. I want to be surprised by the new world. I want to be astonished by the new world. How about you? Okay. So, my,
Absolutely. We want to
oh,
be astonished.
yeah,
This is important. I just want to share before we get
yeah, yeah,
into
yeah.
the course material, because the tools that you offer, and we all have tuning forks. I mean, you've got different kinds. You're going to go into it. And the tuning forks are one way, oops, that we
Whoa,
can truly put us into the present moment and center ourselves. And so that's really key and really important. So thank you for that. And
sure.
I wanted to say also that they could be used in an instant to shift us out of fear, because it's so easy. It is so easy to take a timeline of fear and worry, because we are naturally wired to trust more, to put more weight on our worries than our dreams. And that's really what we're shifting here as we move into the new earth and move into creating new systems. So that's pretty cool, right? We have to shift it and not go into the fear.
That's
Hmm.
right. That's right. And so, sound, tuning forks. You know, um, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been playing music for over 50 years, 55 years of my life. 57 years I've been playing music I'm 62 and started when I was 6. So, it's been a long time, and music transformed me. And it's not just music, it's playing music, listening to other musicians playing music. This is what's called organic sound. And so much of the sound that surrounds us today is synthetic sound. You can have a nice car stereo, but it's still synthetic sound. We can enjoy hearing and having good conversations together in our groups here, but that's still synthetic sound. And so to have something that's an organic sound is the closest thing we're going to find to natural sounds like the wind blowing through the trees, waves crashing upon the beach. Okay. And these sounds for most people are just kind of memories. They're not experiences that they have on an ongoing basis because they don't seek them out, because we're running in from one environment, our home, into our car, into our office environment. We're surrounded by synthetic sounds. So the power of synthetic sounds is is that it expands the bandwidth of frequencies that accesses pathways within your own neuronet. Imagine that the bandwidth of frequencies from all the synthetic sound systems that you have in your world is about 1 to 10. Let's just use that for a picture for you, about 1 to 10. And now, just by going outside, now you don't think you're listening to a lot of frequencies when you hear a wave crash on the beach, but you're listening 1 to 100 frequencies, different frequencies, much higher than you can listen to and you can hear, much lower than what you can hear from a wave hitting the beach. You can prove that with an oscilloscope. Wind blowing through the trees in the air does the same thing, but yet we're limiting ourselves 1 to 10. What that does is it begins to corral your neurological system to react in a very limited way to an otherwise hugely expansive world. And so, therefore, when someone, particularly the young people, are subjected to synthetic sound all the time, and now their bandwidth response is here, 1 to 10, they go into nature, and this is what they experience, 1 to 10. And it takes a lot for them to unwind from that to experience it. So now, tuning forks, as Loren just grabbed her fork, and was messing around with it there in her hand, right? You can hit a tuning fork, and this is a great example of organic sound. And you can just take it, pass it from one ear to another. It doesn't even matter what frequency it is. And now your whole brain lights up. And this is proven through science. It's not just me saying some fun things. This is proven through science. And then if you take that same frequency, let's say you take the C or the D tuning fork, doesn't matter, and you hit it and you move that from side to side, your whole brain begins to light up as those harmonics and overtones, that broad spectrum just awakens your brain, integrating left brain and right brain, all kinds of things just from listening to that tone. And you can play that same tone on your stereo system, even if it's a really good stereo system, and it doesn't do that because it's not a natural sound. It's a synthetic sound. Am I making sense so far? Yeah. So, um, what I did with sound, because I'm a drummer and I'm a violinist, is I took my love of music and I explored sound, and I wanted to develop a system that we could use to, and this is the Monarch Notes version of all of this, to help people awaken, to help people heal, to help people relax. And around that technique, provide an environment, a fundamental teaching that will be like a series of breadcrumbs through the labyrinth of confusion that's out there in the world today about our spiritual lives, our existence as beings. So, all of that. Okay. So, I've got about 8 different sets of tuning forks here in my room, just here in the office. And the fundamental physics of tuning forks is the same no matter what tuning forks you have. So, we can just grab one. I'll grab one of the unweighted ones. This is from the Pythagorean set. A Pythagorean tuning is tuned to a different series of mathematic principles than um, the A440s that most people have. The A440 is the regular set that people have. Some people will have a Solfeggio set of forks that's tuned to yet a different set of mathematical principles. There's many different approaches to all this. Okay, doesn't matter at this point. What matters is that you have the ability to listen to a raw piece of sound. So now we're taking this natural sound and we're making it synthetic. But for me, you see, when you hear a tuning fork, you're hearing a D note. This is a D in the Pythagorean tuning. And now what this means is that there's the fundamental tone. That's the driving note that you hear. But when you listen, and I teach people listening is a skill. There's also another subordinate tone called an overtone just above it. And then there are literally within this one tuning fork, when you hit it and have it vibrate, there are thousands of what are called overtones and harmonics. There's the fundamental overtone, that other second note that you hear, but there are thousands of harmonics, which are other tones, frequencies, and then there are other overtones as well and undertones. So a tuning fork is a rich resource of frequencies. And the reason that tuning forks are my tool of choice for sound healing is simple, in that I have crystal bowls, I have Tibetan bowls, I have everything because I'm a sound healing guy. I've explored and I enjoy all of it. But the focus of my work, no matter what set I'm using, has always been the tuning forks, because the tuning forks enable you to take this piece, a tuning fork, no matter what frequency it is, and a tuning fork has a primary field about the size of a golf ball, a little bit bigger. It's probably about the size of an orange. All right, a primary field, and it's not down on it like this. It's suspended up above it, and the end of the tines. These are called tines of the tuning fork. The end of the tines is the center of the orange. So that means that I'm able to vibrate the tuning fork and I'm able to pass it right over the body. This is called painting with sound. This is how I help people learn how to use tuning forks properly. So now that primary field, that orange size primary field, is penetrating the skin, going all the way through my hand out to the other side as I'm painting it across this section of the body. And then when the vibration dies out, then you just start it again and then allow allow the painting to continue. No matter where you are on the body or what technique you're applying as far as patterning of sound, this same idea of primary field is of fundamental importance. So, because it enables you, a tuning fork, unlike any of the other sound devices, it allows you to take a specific frequency and apply it to a specific region of the body. A crystal bowl doesn't do that. A Tibetan bowl doesn't do that. They're not designed for that purpose. That's not what they're for. It doesn't matter if you take a crystal bowl or Tibetan bowl and put it on someone's chest or put it on their stomach, you know, and play it. It doesn't just go there. The primary field of one of my crystal bowls is usually 20 to 25 feet. So the best way to describe that, thinking that you're going to apply that to a specific region of someone's body is kind of like thinking you're going to do brain surgery with a chainsaw. That's just not really the right tool for the right job. Right. So I love crystal bowls, but I use them in groups. My wife and I do, Yolanda, she and I do sound voyages for people where we set up the bowls and bells and all types of sound devices all around a room. And we walk around a place where people come in and lie down. And we put on this sound voyage, just taking people on a journey from resonance into dissonance and back again and building chords, where we're both playing the bowls and bells together. So, tuning forks are the best tool for individual use. Now, if you're just going to use a bowl for meditation, that's great. Or blessing. You're going to use it for groups. That's really what it's for. So, how I use tuning forks around the body. There's a whole approach to healing that I take. It's called the art of the healer. And I'd like to really share it with you. Most of sound healing, just like most of what we call alternative healing, turned right on the path and I turned left many, many years ago. This is 35 years ago. All right. And what does that mean? Well, most of the sound healing community back then, when it was just beginning, because we were all working together, those of us at the beginning, then they all took a premise that I didn't want to take. Just like a lot of the other alternative healers took a premise that I didn't want to take. What's the premise? The premise is that you're broken and that you need to be fixed. I thought we were trying to get away from all that, but so what we have is over the last 35 years, you've seen the development of all kinds of amazing tools and technologies that can tell you what's wrong with you and try to fix what's wrong with you. And I understand there is a place for that in our lives. But the healing that we're really looking for, particularly as we move everyone into the age of Aquarius, has nothing to do with any of that. And a much more powerful approach to healing work and to personal transformation, planetary transformation, has to do with the art of the healer. This is seeing your client and seeing yourself as being whole and complete right now. Seeing yourself that you are not broken, that you do not need to be fixed, that there's nothing wrong with you. No matter what's going on with you in your life, emotionally, mentally, physically, nothing wrong with you. Right? And it's a different mindset. It's a different whole approach to seeing yourself and seeing your client. Because we've been indoctrinated through the idea of inherited sin and karma, and all this stuff to think that somehow we're in this obligatory cycle of trying to fix ourselves and remedy problems and all of this, when no, not really. That's all what Mr. Spock on Star Trek would have called many years ago a self-made purgatory. Our approach to healing here has to do with washing windows. I know it sounds silly. For 30 some years now, I've taught about washing windows. Everybody loves it once they get the premise. There is a template of sound that everybody has, and everybody's the same template. Every dog, every cat, every tree, every crystal, every person fits in this template of sound. It's called the divine template. And in this template of sound, all we're going to do is through a physics principle of resonance, dominant field, and then entrainment, we're going to wash the windows. So now imagine that each energy center in your body, we call them chakras. Chakra means wheel, but I've seen them not really as wheels or discs that spin in different directions. I see them as clear crystalline globes. Okay. This gets into spiritual anatomy, which I'm just going to streamline for the sake of our time here today. These crystalline globes have living light within them, and this living light pulses, starting with 2 pulses per second at the root chakra, all the way up to 1,000 pulses per second at the top. They're called lotus petals in Eastern traditions. The 2 petaled lotus, all the way up to the 1,000 petaled lotus. And these pulses are undulations, meaning that the light within each chakra fills the globe until it can't be contained by the globe, and then it pulses out like a capacitor in electronics that builds up to charge and then discharges, and builds up again and then discharges. There's a rhythm to each chakra. So each of us has these primary chakras and secondary ones too, but the primary ones are what we're concerned with now. And these primary energy centers are always working. All right. There's a lot of misunderstandings about this. If you ever had a chakra that wasn't operating, you simply wouldn't exist in this plane of existence, because you're traveling to this plane of existence each moment of each day. You're continuing to depart and arrive with each moment. You're departing and arriving, departing and arriving, departing and arriving each moment. You're here. So in order to do that, the 7 chakras, act as, for lack of a better metaphor about it, they act as chevrons, uh, coordinates for your stargate that you need 7 chevrons for, to direct your pathway through the limitless possibilities of existence as you move through your own stargate. So we are the stargate. You're the stargate and you're the traveler. So each chakra, as we interact with our own existence, we develop what I see as mandalas on each of the chakras. These mandalas are like dust that form over the chakras. They are our emotional feedback loops, our belief systems, our conceptual systems, our values, our principles, our hopes, our dreams, our fears. All these things take in their expression a geometric form as layer upon layer of dust over each of these chakras. And as you can imagine, the layering of dust on the chakras, as the chakras are pulsing this light into this morphic field which surrounds us, that would kind of change the light. It would distort the light. It does. It distorts it, refracts it like a prism refracts light, and it becomes what you call your reality. This is the nature of your personal reality. It is a continuous projection, and it's really, the physics of it is not so much that you create it, but you are it. Okay, this is a different octave now of teachings. Sound is the key here. So now, when you process your symptoms, when you give someone diagnosis, prognosis, and prescription, whether you're a naturopath, whether you're any kind of an energetic healer, whatever you're doing, if you're seeing them as a problem that needs to be fixed, with this issue that needs to be resolved, then you're treating the broadcast out here. You're treating the broadcast out here. You're treating the effect instead of treating the cause right here. And now, there is a reflexive reality principle that takes the effects of the broadcast out here, and you can affect the broadcast system. You can make changes within yourself, but it's very difficult to make lasting and worthwhile change this way, as most people can tell you, because the more you work on yourself, the more there seems to be to do on yourself, right? So, what do you do? So, I looked at this issue 35 years ago, and I thought, you know what? That isn't the way I want to go. That isn't the way I want to go with this. Because with my insight and with my visual abilities and seeing energies and working with energies and my abilities as a musician, I experimented with sounds in different forms until I arrived at tuning forks. And then from there, till I arrived at a recipe of how to apply them to the body, learning about the physics, how to apply them, what the template should be for the body for optimum results. What are the results that I'm looking for? Well, if you take the tuning fork and if I hit it and if I paint over this section of my body, then that orange, that primary field, is now down into my heart area. It's vibrating everything that's on the heart chakra, everything that's there, all the mandalas are getting vibrated, or the layers of my beliefs, my ideas, my dreams, my fears, whatever's there at that level of my being is getting vibrated through what's called resonance. And as I take that and pass it back and forth and paint it, it breaks it up. It breaks it up. Okay. So now, if you do nothing with it at this point, and this is kind of a gift, Lauren, to your group, because I this is normally reserved for sound energy dynamics students. Okay. So at this point, if you don't do anything, then that those mandalas, that dust like material, just falls back down into the chakra again. Because all you did was loosen up the dirt. All you did was loosen up the dirt, and it's just going to fall back down because there's nowhere for it to go. But if you hit the tuning fork again, and now you make a counterclockwise spin over that region of the body. Why counterclockwise? Counterclockwise in our reality in the three-dimensional world is called the solar cross in sacred geometry. It represents unscrewing something, like when you unscrew a screw from a piece of wood, when you loosen a bolt from a nut and bolt, something that's being held together. It's always counterclockwise, loosens it or liberates it from the wood, liberates the pieces that were held together. So you're liberating that stuff. So now, because through resonance, you've loosened the dirt now from what's called dominant field, because the tuning fork has a higher volume or what's called amplitude. It's more powerful than the sound of the heart chakra. Okay, as it's softer, the volume's at 2. The volume on the tuning forks like 8 or 9 in relative comparison. As you do that, now the droplets, this dust, I call them droplets, the droplets come off, they swarm around the tuning fork. And now you keep that counterclockwise going, like you're unscrewing them. And I would see them, they look like a smoke ring coming out of the chakra. As it comes out, then you move it away from the body, about arm's length, and then you slide the tuning fork around in your hand and stop the vibration. Now, at that point, these droplets are not destroyed. These droplets are just energy forms. We know that in the quantum world and in the Newtonian world, energy is never created nor is it destroyed. It just changes its forms. So what happens? What happens to this energy is a really special thing to understand here. And this is where, and I'm going fast through a lot of heady material right now, so just bear with me, everybody. It gives you a lot to chew on. All right. So now, as you've taken this energy and you've pulled it out, you haven't diagnosed what's going on with the person, no matter whether they have cancer, they have leukemia, whether they're depressed, whether they're mad. It doesn't matter what's going on with them at all, whether they just want to improve their lives, whatever. It doesn't matter. The cure is the same. The cure is, let's just wash all your windows. Let's move you back into a fundamental reset. So now we're pulling this out. We've stopped the vibration of the tuning fork. So now here's a picture. The picture is of a Taurus. A Taurus is like a tomato or an apple. It's the key to all sacred geometry universal principles. Our Earth is a Taurus. Every blood cell in your body is a Taurus. It goes all the way out into the cosmos, the metaphor. So a Taurus, in the center of the Taurus, is a non-polarized region. All right. As we move away from the center point and the Taurus moves down and out and up and out, and then the part that moved out returns in at the bottom, the part that moved out at the bottom returns in at the top. This is a journey that in physics we call from emergence into entropy. In social circumstances, political circumstances, we call it cycles of freedom into tyranny. We're in a critical portion of that cycle right now as our species makes this huge quantum jump. So now what's happened is that the Taurus we have to realize the Taurus is a closed system. There's infinite possibilities within the Taurus for emergence, systems organization, self-determination, and then all systems fall into entropy. But when a system falls into entropy, like a religion or a government or a banking institution or a civilization, it isn't destroyed. The energy just depolarizes as it moves back into the Taurus, and it's reorganized and is rediscovered as something new. So these droplets that you've pulled out, this swarm of gunk you pull off somebody's heart chakra now is over here. You stop the vibration, so they're not attracted to it anymore. So now they diffuse, and the toroidal currents are all around us, and they're caught up in what's called an ascending current because you've already set it in motion. You started the counterclockwise, which is the solar cross, the ascending current, and it moves off and depolarizes itself, and it can be all these droplets that were self-limiting beliefs, ideas, fears, whatever they were. You don't know, don't need to know, because they're no longer it, and they're no longer on that person. They can become part of the limitless possibilities of existence, like they always were. So we go through the whole energy body with the template, washing windows, and here's the reason why I call it washing windows. When I introduce this idea to people, I talk about it like, you know, when I go outside to clean the windows of my house and I see how dirty the windows are, usually because my wife reminds me, then what I see is dirt on the windows. And I don't ask myself, how did that dirt get there? I don't ask myself, what do I have to learn from this dirt? Because if I did those things, then instead of just washing the dirt off the windows, I would scrape the dirt away as I'm analyzing it and processing it. And instead of getting rid of the dirt, I would save it in my sacred dirt medicine pouch, and I would tie it to my waist, and I'd carry it with me all the days of my life because I sure don't want to forget about what I've learned from that dirt. And I see people walking around with dozens of sacred medicine bags filled with their dirt, going through decades and decades of life because they think they're over with all of those issues, but they haven't let go of any of it yet because they were taught misinformation. You see, the physics of our lives demands that we not analyze ourselves, not try to figure ourselves out, but enter into the childlike state of discovery and just rest there. I've been doing this a long time. I've been meditating every day of my life since 1976. I, traveled the world, done this, that, and the other thing, and I don't understand myself. I'm quite an eccentric being, and I think it's great not to have to understand myself. I feel so much better when I stop trying to figure myself out, why I do the things that I do, why I am the way that I am. I don't need to know that. And really, who am I to understand me? I know this sounds absurd. Please get it. But you know what? I have much more fun and I can enjoy the beauties of my own existence here with my wife, my girls, my grandchildren, all of you, without my mind getting in the way trying to understand it all. You know, been there, done that. So rather than scraping the dirt off the window, how about if we just scrub it off? Don't worry about how the dirt got there. It's dirt, it gets there. Dirt will always get on your windows, no matter how pure a life you live, no matter how secluded or quarantined you happen to be, you're going to get dirt on your windows. It's part of interacting with the morphic fields that surround us. You see, you are a stabilized waveform immersed like a current. You are a current within the ocean, a current. And currents are interdependent. No current is dependent or independent. Currents are interdependent with each other in the ocean. Did you know that? You can drop down into different levels and the ocean will be moving a different direction as you drop down from one level to another. Different temperatures, different movements, different speeds. The ocean's an amazing place. It teaches us a great deal if we have the eyes to see. So, what's important to do as we move away from the old Piscean age and walk through this doorway is that we walk facing forward. You see, when we face forward, we're looking into the open canvas of the world, of the new world that's awakening right now. So, to do that, the whole principle of whatever tuning forks I'm applying, whether it's the actual movement through time with the Pythagorean forks, the A440 forks, the A110s, weighted and unweighted forks. These are all systems that work to help wash all your windows and to align you so that you can propel yourself into expanded states of awareness. Sapphagio forks and many other different tuning systems. Don't have to get into all the technical stuff now. I have A415s, A432s from different parts of history. It's my job as the sound guy to experiment with all these things, to experience them, to study them, to see how things came to be. And I can tell you that these few simple things that I've shared with you so far today, if you have tuning forks, consider experimenting with them. Take that primary field and pass it over your body, whatever frequency you have. Experiment with it. See where it feels right. And then, of course, the other way to use a tuning fork, which I'm sure you all know, is you hit the tuning fork, and then you take this. I did it too. Um,
Those pesky forks.
I'm sorry. You take it and then you touch the tine of the tuning fork, the stem of the tuning fork, as the tines vibrate into a specific area that you would like to stimulate. Does that make sense? Okay. So, and one final thing I've been reminding myself to mention throughout today's quick conversation and teaching about it. Never, ever, ever do this. Okay. And I'm not going to do it. I'm going to show you. What was I about to do?
I've seen people do that.
Yeah. If you see that, that means that they have no idea what they're doing, and just thank them for their time and just go on about your business. And people get very offended with me. But when let me do I have time to explain this to you for a couple minutes? Oh yeah, this is really important. So never ever bang your tuning forks together, okay? It'll happen a little bit by accident. Now see, I didn't hit them hard, I just touched them. But if you wonk them and you hit them like that consistently as a part of your practice, which you can see people doing, People's whole careers have been built around doing all that. From over 30 years of sound work, I've watched people do this. Years ago in North Carolina, I taught an advanced sound healing class, and a man that showed up for the class, I didn't know it at the time. He and his wife came. I knew he was a science guy because he had a pocket protector on and Coke bottle glasses. He had the suit, and I thought, oh my God, this guy's going to tear me up. I didn't know who he was. He was an acoustic physicist for NASA. An acoustic physicist. He's coming to a power of sound advanced healing class from me. And I'm thinking, oh crap, is what I thought. And I didn't know who he was until later. So I just did my thing. And he was taking notes throughout the whole class. And I'm watching him going, oh no, you know. And so when I taught that part of the class, he was writing down furiously. I thought, oh God, because I taught never ever hit your tuning forks together. So why? Here's the science behind it. And then I'll tell you about the guy. Okay, because it was really fun. At, when you hit tuning forks together, and you can prove this to yourself by looking at your tuning forks with just a little handheld magnifying glass. Okay, $2 magnifying glass. You'll see little micro dents going in your tuning forks every time you hit them together. Okay, that's why I never hit tuning forks against anything except my hand. My on the top of my knee if it feels right to do it, or on something rubber. Now, when I teach people the classes, I always suggest that they get a hockey puck. A rubber hockey puck fits great in your hand. Bang, tuning fork's great because the hockey puck is nice and firm, and it doesn't make a big zinging sound, and it gives you just the right pressure. Okay, and your tuning forks will last forever. So when you put little micro dents in your tuning forks, what are you doing? What are you doing? Well, the frequency of your tuning forks is determined by a simple formula. It's mass over volume equals frequency. So mass over volume equals frequency. The mass of the tuning forks is unchanged no matter how many dents you put in them. But the volume is changed because now you're putting all these little micro dents in your tuning forks. So over a period of time, and you can check this with a really good digital counter, which of course I have, then the digital counter will show that that's not a perfect A440 anymore because now the volume is decreased, mass over volume. So now the frequency is actually higher. It's like you've been grinding away some of the mass would have the same effect. Does that make sense? So that's just one of those things. So never ever hit your tuning forks together. Plus, they don't like it. The tuning forks are beings, and they become part of your personal, set of spiritual tools. I could no longer. There's no way I would ever be able to hit tuning forks together. It would be like taking two of my quartz crystals out of my personal collection and going like this. You'd never think of doing that, would you? You'd be horrified if you saw somebody doing it. But yet people take tuning forks and they hit them together all the time. No, just please don't. So after the class in North Carolina, which was a full weekend, 2 8-hour days of me with experiential stuff for people, the big group experiments for entrainment and resonance and all kinds of fun things with sound. He said he came up to me and his wife, and he said that I've I've studied sound. He introduced himself as a NASA astrophysicist, and he said I was the head of the team that designed the wings of the space shuttle, so that when they approach Mach 1, Mach 2, Mach 3, it wouldn't just blow to pieces. So I thought, cool. And then he said, I've studied sound with all the people that I've ever known that study sound. I've traveled Europe, all over the US, my wife and I have. He said, there's nobody that has ever taught it like you. And that you by far have the best sound workshop that I've ever attended. Yeah, and he said that you could come into a second, third year physics class and teach sound just without all the math, and it would be much more helpful than most of the professors.
That's a big kudos. That
That
says
was
a
a
lot.
big kudos, and we,
Yeah, a NASA rocket man.
yeah, yeah, that's the Rocket Man. That's exactly what it was, and we remained friends with him for a number of years, and just great. He loved the work, practiced it on himself, because that's one of the things about my work is that you can tune yourself every day.
So, as we get ready to wrap up this free webinar, share with us. I mean, it's beautiful. I want to tell everyone who maybe joined us late that the washing the windows is your metaphor for the chakras, the
Yeah,
energetic that you see as clear crystalline
globes.
globes,
That's right.
living light that pulses. So, would you, I mean, how long would it take someone to take a tuning fork? And by the way, thank you so much for sharing that this is not just a tool, this is a very special being.
It is.
And I mean, I have new respect for it as well.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's matched to represent a specific frequency. And you're saying that you can use these as a daily tune-up. So share with us how we do that.
A tune up. The easiest way for you to tune yourself up um, in this time allotted, okay, without teaching somebody the entirety of the technique, just the really simplest thing to do. There's a frequency that if you don't have it, you can get it easily. It's G sharp. Okay, G sharp. It's 415.3, I think is what it is, and 415.3 it operates on the balls of the feet, on the underside of your feet, and on your big toe. Okay, and in your Merkaba, in your chariot of light, your vehicle of light, that activates that center that's beneath and below your feet, between and below your feet. And so when you hit the A415 or the G sharp, then what it does is it breaks up all the muck around the lack of grounding that most people have around the feet, and just the goo, and then it allows it to be drawn down into what some people would call the earth locator, which is down beneath and between the feet. That's the bottom of your Merkaba. All right. And then as you hit the tuning fork again, now you can do your pull out, because the droplets that you freed up will follow the fork. That's called dominant field. So through resonance, you're going to break them up. Through dominant field, you're going to draw them away. And then as you stop the tuning fork from vibrating, they just diffuse into the Taurus, where they depolarize and become part of the ongoing experience of cycles of life. So what that does for you is that opens a pathway for your system to just naturally begin to drain, because your system has a drain just like your kitchen sink has a drain, right? And if your kitchen sink just has a bunch of stuff in the bottom of it, then it's not going to drain very well. It may drain slowly, but it's not going to drain very well. And it creates just a big mess. And so you get backed up and backed up and backed up. And yes, you're working, your systems are working because you're alive, you exist here. But yet, by just grounding somebody out, I've had I've had the experience, as many of my practitioners have had the experience, that it feels like a jolt of electricity just popping through the tuning fork when you hit somebody's foot with that specific frequency, that G sharp. And so that's the easiest way to give yourself a tune up. If I had an hour, which I'll take in the classes, then we can begin to talk about how to wash windows all the way through the circuitry of the body, and then spiritual anatomy, spiritual physiology, how it all works in our Stargate experience that we're in.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. Well, thank you for sharing these tips today. And for those who are new to tuning forks or have always worked with them, we've learned something very powerful either way. So let's talk about the course. There is a course that is 3 sessions. So that's going to be 6 hours at
Yeah,
least.
yeah,
And
at
this
least.
is where you really go into it. So, is this tell us how people would use this? This is like in our everyday life, but actually, if we are healers or want to expand our service, there's lots of ways that there's an opportunity for that too.
It's true. Um, well, this particular three-part class is about clearing up a lot of misunderstandings about sound, first of all. how resonance really works. So we go from resonance to dissonance. We're going to understand what dominant field is because that's crucial. We're going to understand how entrainment works within the cells of your body as a reflection of the energetic principles in your body. And then we're going to talk about the musical scales because, there is so much misunderstanding about the the best scales to use for what purpose within healing. There's this ongoing war between the people that want to play 528, and again, that's part of the A432 scale, and that A440 is part of a kind of a conspiracy plot to take over the planet, and all this type of thing. And first of all, that's not true. That's not true. And secondly, to really understand what the different scales are all about is to understand the many gifts that have been given to us, left for us through time. Um, so we're going to explore musical scales and how we got to be where we are right now with this very bright, very shining scale, which is the A440 chromatic scale. And before that, we had A432. Before that, we had A415. What were those really about? Because, see, I tell time not just with a timeline, but through music. Because the music scale of the time reflects the consciousness of the people and the collective at that moment. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, it does kind of. So, like, there's other times. How would a scale be different from other
Oh,
scales?
the the mathematical relationships that build one note from another note, how A becomes B becomes C becomes D, and the half steps, sharps and flats. The mathematical relationships between, let's say, the Pythagorean scale, the Solfeggio scale, the A440 scale, they're all different mathematical relationships. Therefore, when you're playing those tones, they create different interference patterns between each other, and therefore the effects are very different. You know, and
Yes.
and
Okay.
and and that's it's something that is really worthy of your exploration. Okay, if you're interested in becoming a sound healer, adding that into your repertoire of tools to use when you're working with clients or working with yourself. I tune animals, tune horses, dogs. Cats don't like to sit still though; they kind of swat at the tuning forks and stuff. So, but um, everything, everything has that same template, and you can use different types of tuning forks for different types of things. We're going to explore this, and we'll explore how you can apply these tones to your body, how you can apply them to other people's bodies. So when you finish a day with me, like when you finish one, two, and three, part one, two, and three with me, I always make sure that no one leaves a class without having a very good understanding of what they're going to do with the material that I give them, how to use the tools. You see, part of my foundations and my spiritual life really were part of my life since the time I've been a young man. And that I grew up in the building trades, and that if you do it, you have to do it right, and you have to have the results that are provable right over here. If I say I can redo your kitchen, I better be able to redo your kitchen. If I'm going to fix something, I better be able to fix it. And that's the way I am with spiritual life. It has to be practical. It has to work. If the tools don't work, I don't use them. I don't share them with anybody. I don't even talk about it because I think it's a waste of everybody's time. Does that make sense? So when you leave a class with me, you have tools, you have workable skills, and I always make sure that there's plenty of time for Q&A. So you'll always have your questions filled, and no one's left by themselves. You can always email me, contact me, follow up with me, and I'll make sure that we keep you moving forward, because it's about you being able to take after just three classes with me, you can go anywhere in the world, talk with anybody about sound healing, and you'll probably have much more on the ball than they do. And I'm not bragging because, like has been said, it's not bragging if you can actually do it. And I've done it, and I've done it all my life. So the greatest gift of all of this is really not what you can do for other people, but how it transforms your own life. Self esteem, self worth, insight, stillness, the stillness. You learn how to listen. Listening comes from being empty and still within yourself. And that's a precious gift, sorely lacking in our culture today.
And that's this time now that we are in, giving opportunities for that to happen, for that stillness and this connection to the voice within, the higher self, the I am presence is how New Earth is emerging. So, what a powerful tool to connect everyone inward. Thank you. I want to say that this upcoming course, 3 sessions, if you join live, that's beautiful. You're part of it. You can also join by the replays that are there,
That's right.
streaming and online. So, this really is a beautiful way for people to learn this at their own pace, at their own level, to join in a group, to do it on their own, to be connected with you, and to get that advice. What a great teacher you are. I know that you are also, not only are you so knowledgeable about it, but you are connected to the real leaders who have this information. It's amazing your network with other
It's,
healers
it's
and
thank you.
information. Yeah.
Pretty fun. And even though my viewpoint with the idea of I go left and most of them all went right, into the diagnostics world of sound, trying to figure out what's wrong with you, and I'm just strengthening what's all inherently right with you. Even
Yes.
though that's been the case, there's always been a great kind of mutual admiration society going on, you know, and we just all love each other.
We all love each other. I think that's where our world is moving as we move into unity conscious more and more. I see this as a beautiful way that even nurses and caregivers
Oh,
are able to bring this in and just bring peace and calm and a centeredness and a groundedness. Really
oh,
beautiful.
yeah, and that's happening. A lot of the practitioners are nurses, LPNs, naturopaths, chiropractors,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah. All right. So if it resonates with you and you wish to learn more about tuning forks, please join us for 3 sessions. These are classes directly with Christopher. 2 hours each session. You're going to learn a ton and put this into your life. This is empowerment for your mastery. The link to that is here on this webpage. And we thank everyone for joining us. I want to share as well that as a special gift with this course, we are going to give you a bundle of plant music for meditation, activation, and creating high vibrational environments. So that is a special bonus for everyone. So thank you, Christopher. As we say goodbye, any last words for people to join in?
Oh, I just encourage you to take this time, in the world to just really dive into this, really absorb this. And as you'll have the recordings of these three classes that are coming up, you'll be using them as a reference, a touchstone to go for years ahead, just because there's so much really sound, no pun intended, information there that it'll just be a great resource.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your expertise. A beautiful teacher. And we thank everyone for joining us as well and for utilizing these tools of New Earth in your own life. This is where we really literally birth New Earth from within us. So Thank you, everyone. We hope to see you on the webinar classes. Thanks and namaste. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you very much. Namaste.
Namaste.